April, thank you so much for being on the DaliTalks show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do.
Well, my name is April Jennings, and I am really an artist, a creator, and a designer, just self-taught by trade. And I also have a background in education for quite some time. And also, I am a Navy spouse. My husband's retired, and I was also active duty Navy, and I have two children that are Navy as well. One is still active.
Now, I didn't know that about you. I mean, I didn't know about the kids still being active. That's really cool.
Yes, I still have one daughter that's active. In fact, she's retiring very soon, like in the next 9 months or so. Yes. And the other is she was active and she is working, doing the same thing that she was doing when she was in the Navy. So yeah, big Navy family.
Yeah, that's really cool. Here my husband and I are Army, and we're always talking to our girls about possibly joining the military. At this point, we don't even care what branch, but but yeah, we haven't been successful so far. They're like, no, we're just gonna go straight to college. That's fine. But yeah, so I invited you here to talk about self-care because you have created some amazing tools. But before we start diving into what you create, let's get to know you a little bit more. What were you like as a child or as a teen? And, what led to doing what you do now?
Well, I was just thinking about this the other day. And as a child, I was always writing poems. I was always creating something, but I was definitely a writer and just a voracious reader. I read everything and I lived at the library. They always had to pick me up. When I was supposed to be doing one thing, I was reading a book, singing, or writing a poem. So I was always very, very creative. I thought when I was very young that I was going to be a nun.
Oh my gosh.
And that's what I wanted to be. I always wanted to be a nun. I grew up in a very Catholic family, and we went to church, we went home, and that was it. And we studied. So that's what I thought I was going to be. But of course, your path is not always what you think it will be. So I decided I got married and then was raising my children, and while my husband was active duty in the Navy. And of course, I went in when they were almost in high school. Why, you probably wondering, why in the world would you do that? And here's why. I always wanted something of my own. And I know there's a lot of women, and I think that was the self-care piece too. That was like the beginning of, I'm taking care of everyone. And that's when I started to realize something's not quite right. And so I joined the military. And then later, while I was in the military, I also noticed that I was taking care of because I was older and they saw me as a mom. Matter of fact, I was Miss J, not petty officer this or seaman this or that. I was Miss J. And it was fine, but again, I felt like I was taking care of others. And even at a distance, I was still taking care of my kids, my husband supporting them as well, while he was active duty. And then later, after I left the military, both of us actually decided we wanted to go into education because we really love the military and we love being around military families. So within 6 months of graduation, I was in Korea teaching. Yes, teaching military kids, and it was a wonderful experience. So we spent quite a few years there, and then we went on to Europe for a few years and on to some other places. So my teaching career was over the span of about 16, 17 years of working with elementary kids and all of that. So that journey throughout that journey between the military, taking care of kids, and being a teacher, all wore me out.
Mhm.
I was exhausted. And so my last 4 years of teaching, I started to feel like something was missing. I was tired all the time. This is a funny story, but it's true in a way. So every day I would get up and I would just feel exhausted. And should be the opposite. You should feel rested when you get up. So I felt exhausted and I started writing. And then going back to when we came back, we had decided we were going to retire. So we came back because I was sick and I got very, very ill. And during that period, I was on bed rest. And while I was on bed rest, I was writing and writing and writing. And I started journaling. I didn't know at the time there was actually a planner, a journal. So I would just take sticky notes and write down little things that made me happy, made me feel good. Because when you're on bed rest, you can't do very much. Pretty much everybody's waiting on you hand and foot. So for me, someone who's very independent, it was extremely hard. And so I had to do something. And I took those pieces of paper and I turned it into a tablet. I started putting those thoughts into a tablet. That tablet became a book, and that book became a planner. And I thought, if this is helping me, it definitely can help someone else. So I started creating, which is something I love to do. So I started creating these planners with Canva. And then then I started using Canva at my job, and I became very, very good at it, if I may say so myself.
Oh,
And so I started creating these templates, and people would ask me for, oh, can you create me a template? And I would just give it away and just create templates. And then I started making planners, and I realized this is really something, it is a resource that is necessary for all of us to move forward in our lives and to help us, not only to decompress, the stress that we deal with. And it's also a way for us to say, this is some time I need for myself. And it's not selfish, as they say. So not only did I start creating planners and journals and templates, but now I'm writing my own book. And I'll start doing pre-sales for that shortly. But and then I started a podcast because I feel self-care that word is almost overused. But for me, it's not just self-care, it's survival. And in order to thrive, you need to just take some time to take a pause. And your body will tell you if you don't. Your body, your mind, something in your life is going to force you to slow down. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the story you tell about taking care of everybody except yourself, and then you ended up on bed rest, and you pretty much accidentally ended up where you are right now because of that exhaustion. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is really common for some people, and even the people who experience that, sometimes, unfortunately, they still don't see the cause, and they still have a mentality of, no, I have to keep going. I have to take care of everybody else. Otherwise, they're not going to make it, or everything's going to fall apart because I'm going to
So absolutely. I was the same way.
Yeah. So what would you say to people who are in that predicament right now, where they just don't stop and take care of themselves? How would they be able to analyze how badly they need it?
I think, you got to get still. You got to get quiet, because there's so much noise every day. And I'm not just speaking in terms of communication. I'm speaking, there's a distraction here, or this needs to be done, or I have to go here, or I have to help this. It's always going to be something. And I noticed even when I was in a classroom, when during my lunch, I would stay, and rather than go to the teacher's lounge, I would stay in my classroom and sit quietly. And that's when I started to realize, because to be honest with you, I had the signs well before I got on bed rest. The signs were there. I just ignored them. But I did notice that even my thought process had changed because I wasn't feeling like myself. I didn't recognize myself anymore. And so I would say the first thing you need to do is get quiet. You know, go somewhere, 5 minutes. I started to take 5 minutes before the day would start, before I received students, before students would come to the library. All the lights would be out. I would sit on the carpet and take 5 minutes just to myself, just to get focused. That's number one. Once you start to get focused, you'll start to notice little things. Don't ignore those little things, because those little things become big things. So that's number two, be aware. Be very conscious and aware of those little things. And then three, when you notice those things, write them down. Make a note of them. And you'll notice a trend. You'll notice a pattern. These are the same things that are happening over and over again. And then once you figure out this is the pattern, then you can make a change. Because you can't, it's hard to make a change when you don't see it. Because when it's on paper, you see it and you have to acknowledge it and you have to do something about it. And then once you change that and you start changing your habits, you start changing that, it becomes routine and you start doing little things. It's not going to happen overnight. It takes a lot of time to do that. You have to be very focused and very intentional about what you do. So those are the three things I would say that would change. But yeah.
Yeah. And I agree about, when you write it down, something happens there. For me, something that I've discovered by accident that really helps is when I say something to myself out loud, not just your thoughts. But writing is one of the things that I do now as well, because like you, I have had those moments where I just can't anymore. And sometimes I remember feeling confused and didn't know why I was feeling so exhausted and what was really going on. And yeah, you're right. The moment you just sit still, it just starts coming to you. If you just truly allow yourself to stay still. And I have a big problem with that. Even now, I have to use a lot of energy sometimes to do that. But I've been told if you're using too much energy, then you're doing it wrong. Because just being shouldn't take that much energy. It shouldn't be that hard. But I guess a lot of people, I know a lot of people say, well, I just sit there and I have all these thoughts going through my mind, and then I want to do this and I want to do that. And then I remember I have to do that, the other thing as well. So for people like me and like so many other people who do sometimes have that hard time taking those 5 minutes, what kind of tricks or hacks would you recommend so that they get to that point where they sit down for those 5 minutes?
Even if it's just a minute. But for me, the key was I had to get quiet. But I started writing. And it wasn't even a book. It was sticky notes. Oh, wow. And when I was feeling, because first of all, my job was very stressful. And then two, even when my husband was active duty and I became active duty, being dual military is extremely stressful when you have kids. So, and at that time, I started exercising because they say exercise help. And I was a runner and all of that, but I still just couldn't quite get there. But when the kids would go to bed, And everyone, when the house was quiet, that's when I would take that time to write down. And I don't know, but writing really helped me. And you know, I'm going to tell you something else. When you actually get quiet with yourself and you start writing things, you're also going to find out new things about yourself that you love, that quiet you, that make you feel whole, that that will help you, like you said, that will help you not only spend so much energy doing the things that shouldn't take that much energy. It will help you to quiet your soul, quiet your mind, and help you be at peace. So you're not so anxious, because I was anxious all the time. This has to get done. This has to get done. And in my mind, it just never rests. But I noticed when I got quiet with myself and started writing those things down. But another thing that I noticed when I didn't have 5 minutes, I would just close my eyes just for a moment, just close my eyes. I know that seems strange, but I had to get inside of myself and get control of that anxiety. Because many times I felt anxious. There's a lot of people who, if you don't get control of your self-care, it causes depression, it causes anxiety, a lot of health issues that I've even had people in my life who would go as far as thinking of suicide. So it's very serious. So when you say you can't get quiet, or you don't feel that peace, is because you need to get still. You need to and you got to say no. That's another thing. You got to say no, because I noticed for me that the anxiety came when I felt like I couldn't say no, when I didn't have a choice. You do have a choice. So that's a big one too.
Yeah, I agree, because we do lie to ourselves a lot. We break promises to ourselves way more than we break promises to anyone else. And so let's talk about the tools that you've created. You mentioned the journals, the calendars. So what can people expect, especially with the one you're about to launch soon? What can people expect out of that?
Well, this book it's been a long time in the making, I believe it's kind of a culmination of all the years of me not taking care of myself. The lessons that I've learned along the way, some tips, even some affirmations that you can use. In the future, I'm going to include a workbook for the book so that you can use it as you're reading the book. It's also a place for you to visualize. That was something that I forgot to mention, that when you close your eyes, like that minute, you can visualize, what do you see? What is it that you want? How do you want to feel? How do you see yourself? So to me, it was almost like an out-of-body experience. So I have learned that visualization is very important too. So I've included some information about that in the book. So it's a lot of great tips and information that's going to really make you think, if nothing else, of how you can change your self-care, your practices, your daily practices, really. And then as far as the templates and the journals, those I currently do not have a journal that's for sale, but it's in the making as well. But templates, you can reach out to me if you need a template, if you just need to get started. And I even have some freebies. So it's a template that you can use just to start taking notes, very simple notes. And so you can, if you go to my link, you can also find me on Instagram too. And if you go to my bio, there's a link. And if you click that link, you'll find more information too about the podcast and other things that I'm doing.
Right. Yeah. And I must say, the stuff that I've seen that you created is beautiful. And
Thank
so
you.
you're welcome. I mean, it is just gorgeous. And I know that some people listening might be saying, well, what's the big deal about writing in something, that was designed a certain way? I think of it as you know, when you walk into this like beautiful, gorgeous hotel and it just makes you feel so nice and excited. I feel like that's what your products make, at least they've made me feel that way when I've seen them.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, because I mean, they're gorgeous. And you know, we all know if you're a person that say somebody that doesn't like to cook, like myself, actually, because I'm not a fan of cooking,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if I see a really nice kitchen, you know, with like really cool gadgets, I'm like, huh,
Uh-huh.
let me go give this a try. And that's how I feel like your journals are, right? For people like, yeah, you might not want to journal, you might not want to write something down, or, you know, think about something or read something. But when you see it, you're like, oh, let me keep reading, or let me give this a try. And I feel like that alone changes that mindset and the mood. And that's a big way to begin.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's why so many people do focus on beautiful designs for things like journals and calendars and books and stuff, because they know that the cover and the things that they see inside are going to motivate people to do whatever they need to do in that book or in that journal. And so the other thing too is that it's something that you should just take your time and enjoy with, right? It's not
Absolutely.
like, yeah, because I have seen where there, you know, there are some tools like that you have to do like 10 days in a row. And so if you miss one day, you're like, oh, I have to start all over again.
Right.
But
And
you're just
that's one reason why it's a template, one template, because sometimes people get overwhelmed, like you said, you know, and then, or if they skip a day, they feel guilty. And that's the opposite of what we want you to feel. So that's why a template, a simple one template, is sometimes better than just starting with a whole journal. And that's why I highly recommend that. I mean, if you can get your hands on a template, or you can certainly reach out to me, and I'd be happy to share some of my templates with you. Or eventually, I want to get my templates out there so people can purchase them. But in the meantime, I have many people that reach out to me and ask me, could you make me a template that I can just get started? Because just getting started is key. Doing nothing is the worst thing you could do. So
I agree. Doing nothing is, yeah, it's nothing's going to change. And some people think, okay, well, I want this to go away. I want this to change. And they think it's just going to happen by doing nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you have to change at least one small thing.
Yes.
And the things that you shared, I know that they're difficult for some people to just like close their eyes and just try to, you know, tune everything out and just take a breath or just take 5 minutes. But it is doable. It's more doable than other things, right? Like for some people, it's harder to deal with those emotions or that frustration or anxiety by working out or taking a certain class to get their minds off of things. But just writing something down real quick, that just takes a few seconds.
It does. It does. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be this huge, long book, drawn out book. And I think when you make it more complicated, you're not going to want to do it anyway. It makes it more work. So start small, start simple and small. That's the key. And because some people have been doing it for years, but it does take practice, and you have to make it part of your daily routine. If it's not part of your daily routine, it's not going to become a habit. So, and that's, you got to start somewhere. So start small, and, you know, and I'm here to help. So if you need help, you know, go to my bio, reach out to me, and I'll make sure that Dali has my information for anyone who needs help.
Thank you so much. And I just want to mention your Instagram handle. so that people can check it out. It's Self-Care with April.
Yes. Yes.
You have a link there to your products and your podcast. Tell us a little bit about the podcast before we wrap it up.
Now, the podcast is growing. It's new and growing, but it is a little twist. It's taking a twist. And here's why. Throughout my self-care journal, I have discovered so many new things about myself. And they may not even have been new. They may have been there all along, which I think. So, and one is that people are calling me an artist, which I never knew I really was an artist. And I love to create.
Let me pause there because to me, and we've had this discussion, I just cannot believe that you just now discovered you're an artist, because everything you've shown me, April, everything is magical that you've created. It is so gorgeous, y'all. I wish she could show you every single thing she's shown me, but it's just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. But okay, go ahead, continue.
Yes, but it's just amazing the things you will discover about yourself. Who knows? You may be a doctor. You may be someone that can save the world. I mean, there's so many things you will discover about yourself. And that's one big thing. And I love creating. And I've been doing it so long, I haven't even thought about it. But now that I've put myself out there and I started talking with people like you, Dali, I realized I am an artist. And someone called me that the other day and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm an artist. And now I'm going to graphic design school. So I'm just so excited on where my life is going. And it's people like you that I'm just so happy that I met you.
Thank you. Me too. It's really exciting to see you growing, because when we first had that first conversation, you were, trying to figure it out. And yeah, just this whole discovery of you being an artist to me is so weird, because of like, how could you not have seen it like this? But you said something so interesting, so common actually. You said, well, it's so easy for me. I just thought anybody could do it. Or also mentioned, right? Yeah. And you said, well, why should I charge? It's so easy. Because we have this misconception of, well, we only charge for things that come hard for us, because that means it comes hard for other people. And that's not true. Right. But that alone, you taking the time, the intentionality to do that self-discovery is a testament of what you're preaching, what you're teaching.
Yes.
It's another form of self-care, and you've done it with these journals, with the affirmations that you created, with the calendars, all of these beautiful templates. And I'm very glad that people get to enjoy that.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, really, you're sharing your art, your creativity to help people get out of that rut and start living, because that's how you feel when you allow everything to consume you, and then you forget about yourself.
That I like that description, consume you. Because yes, and I was guilty of, I let my job consume me. I honestly did. But I'm in that at the same time, that's when I discovered that I love to create, because when I was stressed, that is what helped me to decompress, was to create. I would come home and I would get on the computer and just start creating. And it would calm me. So you have to find that calm, but you won't do it if you don't become more aware of what you need.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm excited to see what other creations you make as you go through the graphic design school, because if you're making amazing things now with the graphics that you find online, I can only imagine your own stuff, because an artist's mind has just very unique ideas in their head, right? But then when you see it come to life on paper or wherever, it's just mind-blowing. So I'm really excited. I'm going to always, make sure to check on, what else has April created.
I am so excited. I tell you, my life is just, I am just to be able to create, brings me alive, just brings life. So I'm just so grateful, so grateful for that. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing this gift with us and for helping so many women like myself about self-care. And before we go, what is the name of your podcast before we wrap it up?
Self-Care with April.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Self-Care with April. And please check out my Instagram page. There are some posts that might be helpful to you as well. Mm-hmm. So, but I forgot to say, the podcast is taking a turn because what I'm going to do is take you on the journey of how I discovered through self-care where I am today and this creative person. And hopefully as I go through graphic design school, I'll continue on that journey. But I want to take you back and take you to the point how I discovered that I am an artist. So I want to share that journey with others because I think it will inspire and encourage other people.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for coming to the DaliTalks podcast and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun.
It was. I'm glad you loved it. All right. Well, enjoy your weekend. And I will be doing some of my own self-care this weekend.
Wonderful. Thank you again, and have a great and good luck with your business too, because you are just, oh my gosh, thriving, as they say. Yes. Yes. And as always, if there's anything I can help you with, please don't hesitate to ask.
I will definitely take you up on that. Have a good one.
Bye.
All right. Don't forget to support April. Check out the beautiful stuff that she's got going on and her podcast. You can find her anywhere online at Self-Care with April. And again, I want to thank you for listening to the podcast. And do me a favor, if you have some time, go and leave a review. Reviews help other people learn about this podcast. It gives them an idea of what to expect. And just seeing reviews tells them, hey, people liked it enough to, chime in and give their opinion about it. So do that if you have some time. I really would appreciate it so very much. All right. Until next time.
Hey, did you like that episode? If you did, be sure to subscribe to this podcast wherever you may be listening and write a review. If you want more tips or some behind-the-scenes videos, make sure to follow my mom at DaliTalks on Instagram. You can turn on notifications for her posts and stories as well. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. See you next time.